Eugenie. I'm delighted to come to the Funding Network. I'm also, if I'm honest, delighted that I'm not doing the pitch that I had to do last year. And I wish all the three all the best of luck. You do survive. Appeal are a small legal charity that fights miscarriages of justice. We fight for reform to stop those miscarriages happening in the first place. And we also provide holistic support for our clients and their families. Last year, we pitched about what I call a national scandal, that in 2014, there was a change to the law. A brutal test came in that you can only get compensated as a miscarriage of justice victim if you can prove beyond all reasonable doubt you're innocent. That's how the test works. It reverses the burden of proof. And it's led to a shocking situation that now less than 7% of applicants from miscarriage of justice victims receive compensation. People who've been in prison for years for something they didn't do come out and do not receive a penny. They are left destitute. They are left on their own. And so we need to scrap this law and we need to reform it. And that's what we pitched about last year. And what we said we would do is we would bring together the victims of that brutal test. We would raise awareness about it. We would brief MPs and the media, start a social media campaign with a film, and draft policy change for the Law Commission. So those are the things that we said we would do. And I want to thank all the people who funded us last year through this process that you're going through today, because we've been able to fulfill all those things, those intentions. So these are some of the people that we've brought together. That the first person there, Patrick Maguire, was one of the youngest victims of miscarriage of justice back in the 70s. He went to prison for a number of years. His whole family went to prison. They would call them Maguire 7 for something that they never did. He did get compensated back then. He probably wouldn't today under this test. He is supporting this campaign for the people, the victims who are coming after him. Seema Misra is one of the victims of the post office scandal, the most wonderful woman I've been honored to meet, who told us her story of what she went through, that she gave birth with a tag on. And she was also always fearful when she was in prison that she was pregnant, that she was going to be stabbed and lose her baby. She's supporting this campaign. Interestingly, the post office victims are compensated under a separate scheme that was set up separately. And undoubtedly, a number of them will have fallen foul of this test and not been compensated at all. The third person there is Sam Hallam, who was my client, who was convicted of a murder that happened about a mile away up the road there on Old Street back in 2005. And he was released from the Court of Appeal in 2012. 14 people said he wasn't at the scene, including the intended victim. There's no forensic evidence he was at the scene, no CCTV, no phone evidence to place him at the scene. They had very weak ID evidence that was further undermined the appeal. He came out of prison back in 2012 and has not received a penny because of this brutal test. So we brought these people together and a number of other cases as part of the campaign. I'm trying to click this thing. If you can help me, can you help me? Oh, right, okay. So in terms of briefing MPs and the media, there's been a lot going on in the last year. The Guardian took an article that was on the Radio 4, and when people hear this story, they're all shocked. I didn't know this. I didn't know this story. ITV were following the story. The Sunday Mirror have now supported the campaign, and we're getting more and more coverage. In terms of briefing MPs, we've come together with the organisation Justice to write a joint briefing for MPs, which has gone out. And I personally briefed an MP called Ben Lake, who's an MP in Wales, who set up a Westminster Hall Commission just the other month about this issue, so that the issue is growing all the time. The Law Commission have also taken up the issue. We've been lobbying them over the last year, and it is now part of their proposals that the law needs to change in this area. They've got a whole chapter given to it. It wasn't part of their remit even when they were looking into appeals, but they are now calling for a change in the law, which is incredibly important in trying to get in helping that to come through to fruition. And then, so I'm just going to not quite finish off and have a couple of words after this, but I'm just going to show you a sneak preview of the start of a little film. We're playing the full film on the 3rd of June as part of a national campaign that's starting from the House of Commons. So it's being played to MPs, with MPs speaking on the 3rd of June, and there's going to be a postcard campaign, which I'll speak about at the end. But I'm just going to play you a sneak preview of what is a 12-minute film. We're just going to have a few minutes of that. So hopefully this will work.
Miscarriages of justice lead to ruined lives. Families are destroyed. Jobs and homes are lost, and people's reputation are left in tatters. The mental despair and anguish caused is never fully resolved. People's lives can never go back to how they were, but this is where we find, as a decent society, that we have to make amends.
Back in, what was it, 1974, I was 13, enjoying life. I was happy being a child. The police came to our house and raided it on the strength of 4 people that had been arrested for the Guildford pub bombings. I never knew Guildford. I never knew about the pub bombings at all. But I said, well, you've made a mistake there. And I remember just crying my eyes out and obviously wishing that this was all over. And eventually it does end.
So we're campaigning about the compensation scheme for miscarriage of justice victims, which is a brutal scheme because of a test that came in 2014. It was a test that was snuck in to a big act, and there were some people raising a voice about this is going to have a devastating effect.
Now we see the onus on victims of miscarriages of justice to prove that they didn't do what the state is saying that they did. This is obviously manifestly unfair.
They should never have been prosecuted in the first place in these miscarriage of justice cases. So it's completely wrong that the state does not compensate them unless they can discharge a burden that should never have been on them in the first place.
It is dropped through the floor. We have had a couple of years since 2014 where nobody got compensation in this country. And the worst part of it all is that people who have spent many years in prison for offences which they did not commit are left destitute without a single penny.
My son went to prison for 13 years and a half, and his conviction was quashed. Then he left out without compensation. So this feels like he is left out completely, and he's very sad.
And they will think they have been wrongly done over, not once by the conviction, but twice by the grudging attitude of the state, saying, well, there may be technicalities, but, and they're saying it by implication, you probably did it anyway.
So thank you. That will be played on the 3rd of June at the House of Commons, as I said, the full film. And on that day, from that day, we will set up a postcard campaign. And I'll just finish on this point. That image there was created by Patrick Maguire. When he came out of prison, he became an artist, and he created that print about Sam Hallam while he was in prison, as part of an exhibition to get him out. And those dates reflect his date of birth, his date of arrest, his date of charge, and his prison number. And we're going to use that as a postcard with a slogan on to compensate the wrongfully convicted. And we're going to ask all the great and the good and everyone we can to hold up the card and be photographed to support that campaign. So please get involved in that. You can stay in touch with us through our newsletter. But I just want to finish on thanking you, because none of what we did this year would have been possible without the funding that you gave last year. So thank you very much.